This episode contains mature language and situations. Listener discretion is advised. You wake, standing on the doorstep of a beautiful mansion. The front door stands open. You can hear voices, music, so many people. You step towards the door. You have to know what's inside. You are lost. You have no memory of how you got here. It doesn't matter. Because now, you belong to the Grey Rooms. Season 3, Episode 8.
Another return to the Grey Rooms. Another rainy evening on the hearth porch. Another cup of tea. I sat looking out at the grounds in one of those wicker chairs. The rain poured down, a curtain of white noise, and it was all I could do to keep my head upright. My torturous experience at the hands of the warden, combined with my death aboard the Luminosity. It was all so draining. I absently reached down to pet Alma's dog. Oz, I think she called it. In the corner, the attendants poured our drinks and gathered our meal.
I think he likes you.
Bob looked over, still seemingly amused by the creature's presence. He's a good boy, Bob. I just realized. Is this even actually a dog?
Do you want the long answer or the short answer?
I would prefer an answer that I can understand, if you please.
Short then. Sometimes a dog is just a dog, Mr. Beckett.
Well said. Would you like some tea, Admiral?
Are you going to tie me to my chair first?
No, I will not.
Something with caffeine. I can't remember a time I was this exhausted. That's true of so many things, though.
We may be able to help you with that. I know this last span of time was challenging for you.
The experience aboard the ship was a particularly vivid nightmare, Miss Alma. Did you know that was how my father died? He was aboard a shuttlecraft when it was damaged, leaving a planet's atmosphere. Solar flares in the region kept the rescue party from reaching him in time. Bob set my tea down in front of me, his face a mask of stone. Alma's face was drawn, but her eyes were vivid and alive with an unpleasant way. Something told me both of them already knew what I was going to say, and I pressed on. As I spoke, I slid my hand over the dog's fur. There was comfort in the simple, tactile reassurance of man's best friend. He had enough time to record a vid for us. A goodbye. We think he intended to turn off the recorder before the air ran out, but it took him by surprise. I looked away from the attendants and out across the grounds. The hedge maze was gone today, and a large reflecting pool dominated our gloomy view. A flock of tall, stork-legged birds were hunting fish in the shallow water. They were a striking lavender color, and for a moment I watched their rhythmic bobbing motions. She shut it off before I saw the end, but that night I snuck down to my mother's office. I can still remember every detail. The floorboards were so cold under my feet. The feel of the knob in my hand as I carefully turned it. I found the key she'd hidden, unlocked the desk drawer, activated the hand display, and loaded up the file. I turned back to look directly at Bob, who returned my stare implacably. At the age of 11, I watched my father die of hypoxia, choking and gasping, desperately trying to tell his loved ones not to watch. Just yesterday, you tortured me for hours. My blood soaked the straw in the stables, and then you sent me off to die the exact same way as my father. I was the one who had to look away. The thing in the suit before me wasn't going to blink. And because of what you've done to me, what the rooms have done to me, I can't remember his name. A glance at Alma showed me that she was just as unmoved as Bob. Her eyes were pools of emotion, but it wasn't sympathy or kindness. I can remember every detail of his death, but not his name. That is what it means to be a prisoner inside the Grey Rooms.
You have my sympathies, Admiral. Neither Alma nor I choose the experiences that are put in front of you. I assume you know that by now.
Is that the job for the architect?
What? How? Where did you hear that name?
The same way the guests learn everything in the Grey Rooms, Miss Alma. Todd.
Am I right? Or am I wrong?
Who chooses the rooms is not important. What is important is...
I raised a hand, pointing an accusatory finger at his chest. It is important. You think you're so superior to us mere mortals, but every action you take gives away your design. The choice to select that horror show, that doomed mission, it tells me that these rooms are not random. This is no arbitrary process. You pick the rooms in some way to fit the guests, don't you? Some aspect of my history or my personality. Every room you select somehow connects back to me. I turned to Alma, whose face had yet to move. You agreed with the warden the first day we met. Said I was special somehow. That wasn't just some empty flattery, was it? There's something about me in particular that you need. You need Admiral David Beckett, hero to the 12 galaxies. Why?
Mr. Beckett, David, we can't answer that question sitting here today. But you're right, you've been through a great deal. I'd like to propose we speak to management on your behalf, to the architect. Perhaps we may be able to answer your questions more directly.
In the meantime, we have come to the hearth porch today with more than just tea. We have an olive branch of sorts. As Alma noted, management recognizes the ordeal you've been through. The timing of it's the little things I can't speak to management's intent, but on the heels of a conversation with the warden, well, it would be a great deal for anyone to bear, even a man such as yourself. And, as I told you before, I wish that we could tell you why the third door is so concerning. But, as with so many things, we cannot.
I searched his face, looking for a tell, anything that might tip Alma he was lying. I saw it. There. Something in the way he'd set his mouth. But I felt certain she wouldn't. Wouldn't see how the man was covering his tracks or even hinting at our conversation.
So, as we've said all along, we want you to be comfortable when you're here. After this next room, after this next choice, we're to allow you an extended respite at the manor.
What does that mean?
You have admirably worked your way through several rooms and dealt with some unpleasant experiences.
When you return, you'll be able to stay at the manor, not make your next choice for quite some time. Months, perhaps. It depends. Management has certain expectations, and we need to make sure we balance this effort with their needs.
Perish the thought of disappointing management. I patted the pup's back and stood, wincing. Everything still hurt. I strode to the windows, looking past my own reflection to the gray sky beyond.
We will have to keep in touch during your stay, more so than before. As a precaution against another intrusion, we've removed the piece of the manor we placed inside of your head.
I thought something felt different.
But beyond that, you'll have run of the grounds. You may relax as you wish, until the needs of the project dictate your time in the rooms must resume.
More of this pretense of partnership. My captor seemed to believe that by offering me platitudes and tea, I would one day forget I was a prisoner. Forget that I was being tortured. Other men may have given in, but I was not like other men. I turned away from the window to look down on the attendants. For the first time I saw that in the shadows of the hearth porch, their eyes glowed, silently. A reflection of the inhumanity within. I appreciate the effort you're going to, I really do, Bob. Alma. I'd like to ask too. Favors isn't even the right word. I'd like to ask for 2 considerations. If it pleases management.
I'd be happy to pass along anything, Mr. Beckett. What would make this easier for you?
First, I'd like to see my family again. However that happened before, I'd like a chance to see them again. I looked down, unable to look them in the eye as I spoke. Please, do what you did last time. I won't fight it. Allow me to remember my past the way I wish it had been, instead of how it really was.
I think we might be able to arrange that.
What else?
I raised my eyes to meet Bob's gaze, matching his unwavering resolve. I want to help figure this out. You said you wanted us to work together. Give me work to do. I stepped away from the windows, gesturing for emphasis. Something happened to me. Somehow I was able to find a third door. As I hope you now understand, we were telling the truth. Neither Todd nor I know how it happened, but it still happened. So let me aid you. In whatever small way, let me help to solve this mystery. Perhaps a challenge, a reason to be here might help make my time at the manor pass more quickly. I tried not to smile when my attendant, my jailer, finally looked away. Bob looked off toward the fire in the corner of the room, a pensive expression on his face. Alma seemed not to notice.
An intriguing idea, and one with merit. If nothing else, I'm sure management will appreciate the offer.
That was my hope as well. Bob swung his head back around, some obvious irritation showing in his eyes.
Good, then. We're all in accord. Unless you'd like some more tea, Admiral. I think it's best you choose your room now. While you're inside, we can speak to management on your behalf and prepare for your extended stay.
I nodded. Even this was a small victory. Perhaps my first real victory since arriving at Ash Manor.
Very good, then. Alma.
She reached the side table, pausing to scratch Oz behind the ears, and pulled a notebook into her lap.
Let's see. That's an arcane formula I'm working on. Some claudication magic, a recipe for a Zavelberry Tort Todd recommended. Here we go. Both of your rooms are family tragedies, I'm afraid. One sees a man desperately wishing he could save his wife from her inner demons. That room is called Take It Easy on My Heart. The other is the tale of a mother struggling to understand dark changes within her sweet, beloved son. That room is simply called Nolan.
And you feign surprise at my suggestion the rooms connect to me somehow. Neither attendant moved or blinked. It was as if I was being guarded by a pair of statues. Nolan, I think. Sounds as if it's going to be an easier journey. If nothing else, it touches on subject matter I'm intimately familiar with.
Very good.
Both of them stood, and Oz clambered to his feet to stand at his mistress's side.
If you'll follow Oz and I, we can show you the way.
The dog waited for me, and I absently reached down to pat him before heading towards the door. I turned back to look at Bob, who I thought would be gazing after us. He wasn't. Instead, as I slipped out the door and into the twisting corridors of the manor, the attendant was doing as I'd done, staring out into the falling rain, considering his future. And despite his best efforts, despite his inhuman calm, looking for all the world as if something was terribly, terribly wrong.
I've always wanted to be a mom. Thinking back on it, it's all I ever wanted out of life. Not to say I was one of those little girls who carried around a baby doll or dressed her cat up in doll clothes. It was more the idea of the thing. That two people could have so much love for each other that they couldn't contain it, causing it to spill out of their hearts and into another little life. A little human, a perfect composition and representation of both mom and dad. Even at a young age, that was a beautiful and miraculous thing. Somehow, by luck, good planning, or just plain old fate, I was the exception to the modern rule. I met a man who wanted all of the same things out of life that I did. Dan. We fell quickly, deeply in love, and became happily married. We ran into the same issue that many couples do, the subject of children. It's not that we wanted different things, we just had problems trying to conceive. All of my friends had their babies' first birthday parties and baptisms, while I sat at home, keeping a tally of every negative pregnancy test piled up in the trash. Dan and I tried for many years to have children. There were a few heartbreaking, bittersweet periods of buying baby clothes that never got used. Early pregnancies that didn't pan out. However, in just 3 years' time, I was pregnant with a baby. A boy. Everyone could tell he was a character, even from the sonograms. His little mouth was always moving. "This one's gonna be a talker," the tech once told us. In response, the baby kicked the wand. Our little man. We were happy and thankful. All was finally right in our little world. After 20 grueling hours of labor, Nolan was finally out in the world. 8 pounds and 7 ounces of screaming fury, crying out for his mother. Okay, so he had a tongue tie that made his cries sound like "Ma." But still, I think we both knew what he was saying. He loved me, and I loved him instantaneously, immeasurably, and without condition. His little eyes, nose, and ears all looked exactly like mine. Nolan was my little clone, God's interpretation of what I would have looked like if born a boy. His first years were so much fun. First steps, first words, and there never seemed to be an end to those, as predicted. His endless Hot Wheel car collection, figuring out favorite foods and colors together. He decided he liked orange best. Everything was what I'd ever wanted out of parenthood. The good and the tired. And I did get very tired, as all new parents do. Dan worked hard so that I could stay home with our little one. I loved every second that I got to have with him, and if need be, I could always nap when he napped. We were so fulfilled. And then, 4 years later, we found out we'd be having another baby boy. Nolan would have a little friend, someone to get into mischief with. Just as I'd thought, when Jonah was born, Nolan was the most wonderful big brother. We would constantly have to tell him to stop peeking and leaning over the crib so the baby could sleep. He loved to make faces at him and make him laugh.
I just want to see him, Mama. He's so cute. The cutest I've ever seen.
Having 2 boys was wonderful. But I could not believe how much time had gotten away from Nolan. My Nolan, our firstborn, the carbon copy of my good traits with an attitude to match. I could tell that, even though he was 4, he noticed it. He took it in stride, never seemed to get angry or frustrated with his brother for being an attention sponge. I always thought it was important to still spend quality time with your children. They always need you. So, I decided to amp up our alone time, go out on Nolan and Mama trips, and leave baby Jonah with Daddy. Dan was a terrific father, the best I'd seen in all my life, apart from my grandfather. I knew time spent between the baby and his dad would be quality time. And of course, then I'd get my Nolan time. That's what led us to the flea market one Saturday morning. Nolan would happily go anywhere with me, but his favorite was an outdoor market. He would always beg for me to buy him fresh pork rinds, even though we both knew they were too spicy for him. He'd lick the dust off and then hold the piece out in pinched fingers, as if it was a dirty banana peel.
Too spicy, Mama. Don't like it.
He'd say it every time. The regular pork rind exchange was taking place while we passed by a new stall. It was full of little figurines and Pokemon. There were rows upon rows of Star Wars Lego men. His eyes lit up at seeing a Darth Vader character, and he reached for it, knocking over a B-Wing fighter Lego ship. It broke into pieces as soon as it hit the concrete floor. The stall owner was deep in a conversation with a customer, but shot me a death glare that compelled me to instantly bend down and pick up the pieces of the mess my little guy made. People are serious about their Star Wars. I picked up the last few pieces and put them on the table. I mouthed a "so sorry" to the owner and gestured that I'd put all the pieces on a pile to the left of the table. I then had a sudden and inspirational thought. Nolan was starting school in the fall, and this would be a good example of how to use good manners. To take responsibility for his actions with an apology. Kids would be kids, of course, but I hoped the gesture of a child's apology would soften the man a little. I turned around to grab Nolan's hand, to bring him to the owner, but he wasn't there. Frantically, my eyes darted back and forth over the rows of stalls. I wasn't in a full panic yet, but I was getting there quickly. Scenarios of random people grabbing him and stuffing him in their trunks pecked at my rationality like a murder of crows. My eyes stung as tears threatened to invade. Where was Nolan? He was right here a second ago. What could have happened in the short minutes I was picking up pieces? Who would take my little boy? My mind was racing, and I wanted to yell his name at the top of my lungs. That meant more attention and help finding him. I drew in a breath to scream when I saw two little Velcroed shoes running under the wall of an adjacent stall. They looked just like Nolan's. I turned the corner, and I could not tell you the amount of relief I felt when I saw my sweet boy's face. He ran up to me, almost breathless. His eyes sparkled with excitement.
Mommy, there's a cute doggy over here. Come look. I got to pet it.
This was new. Nolan always called me Mama before, never Mommy. My little guy's getting older, I guess. He wriggled and bounced with glee. I took his hand and followed him, all the while telling him how scared he made me, how he shouldn't ever run off like that. I scolded him that the nice thing to do would have been to help me pick up the pieces instead of giving Mama a heart attack. He suddenly came to a stop and got a confused look on his cute little face.
He's not here anymore, Mama. Maybe the dog runned away.
The corners of his smile sagged into a pout as he scanned the open aisle for the dog. I held a hand to my mouth, stifling a chuckle. I secretly loved it when he still said words wrong. I'll tell you what, I was so happy that he was okay. I would have gotten him a puppy right then and there if we came upon a nearby pet stall. Lucky for Dan, there wasn't. I can remember thinking a surprise new puppy would go over like a lead balloon, with the new baby and all. He eventually would have understood, though. Dan's always been a very understanding person. At home, I got Nolan settled with some cartoons after changing him for dinner. I was emptying some noodles into a pot of boiling water when he ran into the kitchen.
Mommy, I'm so hungry. I need to eat dinner. What is that?
His tiny index finger was stretched curiously towards the contents of the steaming stovetop. I told him it was his favorite, macaroni and cheese. He turned his perfect nose up in response.
No. What are you cooking for you and Daddy?
He knew that I always made 2 different meals each night. One for him, and one for Dan and myself. Nolan normally hated any meat that wasn't in nugget or seasoning packet form. Chicken fried steak. Now back up, please, my dear. I don't want you to get splattered. I instructed him, gently but sternly, to let him know I meant business. He sniffed the air heavily before taking a few baby steps back from the stove. His eyes lolled in his head as he pretended to drool in anticipation.
Mommy, that smells good. I want the chicken.
I told him, Honey bun, that's beef, not chicken. It's just fried like chicken is. And you hate meat. Every time you say you want to try something that has meat, it ends badly. I gave Dan a, "What do you want me to do here?" look. He smiled and grabbed some steak off of his plate, cutting it up into tiny, Nolan-approved sized pieces. I remember holding my breath, dying for his reaction after finishing that first bite. He loved it. The plate was empty in a flash, and he was immediately at the stove looking for more.
Mommy, that was so good, but I'm still hungry. So hungry.
I placed down a plate of strawberries with a cheese stick for my big growing boy. To my dismay, he sniffed at the plate and turned his nose up in disgust.
Yuck. This is gross. I don't want it. I'm hungry for more Daddy's food.
He started to whine, and the tips of his ears began to turn red, a sure sign that a crying tantrum was close at hand.
I want more chicken.
Nolan screeched, pounding on the table loud enough to wake Jonah from a sound sleep. The baby started wailing in his room, and Dan was leaving for work, so I took my piece and cut it up for him before checking on Jonah. He's acting strange, I thought. Maybe he was getting sick. I desperately hoped that he hadn't caught a bug at the flea market. Better now than after school starts up again, I suppose. I had hoped this newfound love of meat was here to stay, though. It would be so much easier having him eat what we ate instead of making all those extra meals. Meat is good for the body. It makes you strong. Our Nolan came from a long line of meat and potato men. Hopefully, this would be the start of new eating habits. That night, Nolan turned off his bedtime TV show, abandoning his routine of begging to stay up for just 5 more minutes. Nolan's stuffed bear, George, was tossed to the floor instead of its usual place nestled tightly in our son's loving arms. See, he was convinced that his bear protected the realm of Nolan's room. I had told him that when he got it as a gift. Each night, the bear would sit atop his pillow by his head, keeping watch over each corner and shadow so our boy could sleep peacefully. In Nolan's world of cars, and more cars, he was beyond puzzled to unwrap a funny little gray bear with huge top and bottom teeth. It quickly became his guardian, the king of the teddies. He never did anything in his room without him, but now he was tossed aside, like he never held any significance at all. I told him goodnight and kissed his forehead. The softness of his skin felt cold on my lips, causing me to gasp in surprise. He told me again that he was hungry, to which I promised to feed him an extra big breakfast tomorrow. Strange, I think. But if this day had shown me anything, it was that my little Nolan was getting older, and getting older meant changing. I darkened his room and left the hall light on with his door open, just like I do every night. I know my little guy. I took that chance to tiptoe and check on the baby in his room at the end of the hall, turning the monitor and mobile on before shutting the door. It had been one hell of a day, and I found myself so tired that I completely ignored the cluttered floors and dirty dishes of the day, blissfully leaving them to become the problems of tomorrow. I spread out on my bed lazily and turned on the TV, muting it, but turning the subtitles on. Yes, I'm one of those people. I'd be able to hear the boys if one of them woke up. With all the excitement and events of that day, I must have been more tired than I realized. I woke with my face mashed against my pillow, an island of drool already formed at the corner. I got up to pee and check the time. I was delighted to see that Dan would be home in just 2 short hours. I got back into bed to enjoy more sleep, a warm groove already in place from my previous position. I rolled over and once again closed my eyes. I can remember being just about asleep when I started hearing a strange sound coming from somewhere towards the other end of the hallway. I couldn't place it right then, but it was playing over Jonah's monitor. I grunted with annoyance, irritated that I had to once again leave the comfy groove in the bed. It was fine, though. I needed to check on the baby anyway. I figured he was probably kicking one of the tissue papery-sounding toys that littered the bottom of his crib. Nolan's room was on the way to Jonah's, so I poked my head in to check on him as well. I could never resist seeing his peaceful, sleeping face. However, my little boy wasn't in his bed. The bathroom light was off, and the door was wide open. Annoyed, I realized he must have been in the baby's room, no doubt trying to play with him. The sound grew louder with every step I took towards the room. I entered, and sure enough, there was Nolan's little butt poking up in the air as he stood on tiptoe, bent over the crib. Such a wonderful big brother, I thought, always wanting to play. I was about to gently scold him and send him back to bed when he turned and saw me standing there. His face was frozen in alarm, like a deer in headlights. There's a darkened gleam to his face. It looks dark, wet. The overwhelming scent of copper fills the room. Bile rose in my throat. Before my mind could register anything, my gut told me exactly what I was seeing. The squelching sound was now at an almost unbearable level, increasing more with every chew that Nolan took.
I'm sorry, Mommy. I was just so hungry. Please don't be mad. I thought you'd be happy that I got a meal on my own, like a bake boy.
Sinew stretched in his teeth as they assisted his mouth to form the words. I fought the urge to pass out, stifled a scream, and backed away from him. "No!" I shouted at him. He instantly backed away at the word. "Oh my God, baby! Why? Jonah was just a baby! I don't understand! Jesus, why, Nolan?" The room was swirling, and my blood felt like ice. How could this have happened? His brother was only 5 months old. How could he do this to his own brother? My infant son, our little boy. He had just barely gotten a taste of life. My only fear in life was losing my family, my children, my Nolan. I wanted to run, to vomit, to scream and shake him until his neck snapped and his breath stopped. But I didn't. Nolan stopped for a moment, swallowing. Then he smiled up at me with a giggle.
I love you, Mommy.
I could never resist that face. That little, shiny, wet, red, smiling face. He's a literal bloody mess. Bits of flesh still hung from his little teeth. I didn't see that, though. What I saw was his first smile as a baby. I saw the way he looked up at me while giving me hugs. The joy on his face every time he learned something new. As he hungrily walked towards me, I saw my little Nolan running on the beach, trying to keep up with the seagulls. There was only one thing I could think to do. The only solution I could come up with that made sense for everyone. I now knew that the child soul that I brought to the flea market was not, could not, be the one I brought home. My Nolan was somewhere else, far away. And I knew there was only one way to get back to him, to get to both of my sons. My heart urged me to hold him close, one last time. I knelt down, extending my arms out to hug him. I lovingly stroked his hair, kissing his blood-stained cheeks as he inhaled the scent of the blood under my skin.
Mommy, I'm hungry. I'm still so hungry.
I let him throw his arms around me and snuggled in for one last hug. My life was over. I've always wanted to be a mom. Thinking back on it, it's all I've ever wanted out of life. With tear-stained cheeks, I closed my eyes, backed up a step, and pulled my hair out of the way. I leaned forward to offer him the juiciest part of my body, my neck. Here you go, baby. Mama never wants you to go hungry. Dan was due to be home soon. He would have to deal with this monster left behind. I just knew that, in time, he would come to understand. Dan's always been a very understanding person. My last thought, as the life left my body, was how pretty the crimson spray of my heart's blood blended with the yellow of Jonah's walls.
Nolan, written by N.M. Brown, with performances by Sarah Ruth Thomas as the mom and Jason Wilson Jr. as Nolan. A Dog is Just a Dog, written by Michael Zenke, featuring performances by Eddie Cooper as Beckett, Graham Rowat as Bob, and Chantal Jean-Pierre as Alma. Musical compositions by J.M. Scherf. Episode artwork, web development, and creative direction by Cassie Pertine. Social media and Patreon management by Brooks Bigley. Videography by Hale Scherf. Audio engineering and sound design was by me, Jason Wilson. We really could not do this without all of you, and would like to take the time to thank our patrons once again, and to any of those who have taken the time to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Those reviews keep us at the top of the charts and makes it easier for more tortured souls to find this show. Patrons like Aaron Anthony, Amy Nikolai, Arthur Unk, Braden Zanussi, Diver Ellie, Ellie Dowell, Emily Cullen, Jackalbot Snows, James Morris, Jason Porras, Jessica Finch, Karina Sonina, Kelly Bear, Kyle Wilcox, Laura Lupinetti, Lynn Browning, Lizzie B., Megan Pruitt, Mike Devine, Mycophilic BG, Page 314, Patrick Stewart, Plin Plon all night long. Sean Gary, Sean McCorkadale, Sparky Anglin, Spirit Live, Stacy Thewis, Talicia Gallman, The Original Nick Show, Teresa Tabor, Maggie Tidwell, and Leland Palmer Gets Happy. The Grey Rooms is also streaming for free on Spotify. Just get the Spotify app or open the browser and just search The Grey Rooms. And we here at The Grey Rooms love our fans, and we just want to make sure that we give back to you in the best way we know how. That's why we have a lot of fun things to show you, and we hope that you like it. You can find out more about us by joining us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and YouTube. We took your advice and extended an olive branch to all the tortured souls who have passed through the rooms. Our emotional support group is always looking to help you with all of your
emotional needs. And don't forget about our merch store either. It's full of epic designs and logos for you to sport, showing the world you are a survivor of these very rooms. All of this can be found in the show notes and on our website at thegrayrooms.com. And let's not forget the great community over at our Discord channel. Feel free to stop on in and say hi to authors, patrons, and Bob himself. And join us in the chaos and the fun. It's a lot of fun in our Discord. Anyway, thank you again so much for your support. We truly love each and every single one of you. We've seen massive growth this season, and we have nothing but admiration and gratitude to each and every one of you, because it is you who made that happen. Thanks again to all of you. And until next time, we'll see you next week.